This video is a video about creative freedom because in today's world we are trained to abandon ourselves and our taste. And the scary part is that very freedom could have just been our path to align success and, well, fulfillment. The truth is that there are many ways that I can start to go deeper into this, but the first thing that I want to say is that we are all creatives. But I think this hit harder on people who actually chose creative careers, because people who usually choose that type of path, they already choose something out of curiosity and expression and meaning. But what eventually happens is when they face the challenge of making a living from their passion, things start to shift. We all choose creative work because we want to create something that feels like us. Hey guys, I'm Rebecca and I help you live a life of creativity, freedom, and business success. And the way that I like to do that is through a practice that I call world building. And I share all the tips and things I've learned throughout this path of achieving my creative freedom, which is, well, as it turns out, the topic of today's video. So I think the first thing that I want to say today is I will dive deep into what creative freedom means to me, how that is a life-changing philosophy that I adopted throughout the years, how it has directed my life towards the type of success, the connections, the best connections ever, the experiences, traveling, meeting other people who are aligned with me, and all of that was possible through something that I like to call creative freedom. And it just has brought me more and more success, and the more I develop that, the better my life gets, the more aligned, the better opportunities, the better work, the better fulfillment, everything, basically. And I do believe this does not only apply to creatives. And the way that I like to set up my YouTube is so that like-minded people can find a home of content here that they like. And it can be potential clients, so it can be entrepreneurs. I often work with founder-led businesses, but it's always like people who are very vision-driven, so they all have something in common, and also other creatives, because I am a brand designer / creative director. I like to say that I build brand worlds, but your creative practice in your creative life can be pretty much anything, really. You could be a doctor in your research, or maybe a scientist and your research is a creative practice. So don't feel limited when I talk about that. So let's dive in, because I already talked too much. Sorry. So if you are a creative, you chose something out of fulfillment. But throughout the path of trying to make money from that thing and trying to deal with the market, you faced a situation where you're slowly draining yourself with something that once it brought you energy, and now it's draining you all of the sudden, because you have to deal with the market. You have to deal with an audience. You have to deal with people who are not aligned with your vision. And the early days, they are pretty tough, because that's when you have no reputation. You have no visibility. You have nothing going on. So you need to adapt so much. And it can be very draining. I understand that. I've been through that. I think most creatives have been through that. Otherwise, you are super lucky that you already your mind was already super strategic early on, or you just got lucky because you had connections or whatever was the case. But for most people, when you face the market with no reputation, you have to accept so many things that are not aligned. So you're slowly draining yourself of the thing that once brought you purpose. That's why this is so important, because I'm going to advocate for creative freedom as a way to get out of that loop. Essentially, what you're doing is you're meeting the market. You have your own thing, you have your identity, but then you're meeting society in a very particular way, which is the market. And I just want to say here, the market is such a huge thing. There are so many pathways there, so many things. What's aligned with you, it exists. That can be for everything in life, right? But what's truly aligned, I promise you, it exists. There's a way. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your creative freedom, on your authenticity, on living your best life and aligning with your purpose ever, because there is a way of living that. Trust it. Even it might take some time, but if you're failing, it does not mean that there is not a way and that you will not succeed if you try enough, if you stick to it, if you be open to the process. I think the most open you are to a process, the easier it flows, so the faster. But the tricky part is You cannot be thinking, this is not fast enough. So there's also that. But the main thing is trust, because there is a way of living your best life. I'm going to talk about what I like to call the bad portfolio loop. Here's how everything starts. You don't trust your perspective. And then you create safer work. Whatever feels the market wants, okay? You're creating work that you see on Pinterest, that you see other designers try to do the same thing as that's already been done, and you don't trust your perspective. You create safer work. What does that attract? That attracts safer opportunities, essentially. And the safer opportunities, they're going to reinforce safer work, so you get stuck here. And what comes out of this is a generic portfolio. And then what happens is the positioning becomes generic, and you can get replaced by AI, you can get replaced by other designers. You compete more on pricing here. So that means your future also becomes generic. And the worst part is that it feels practical, it feels safe, and it feels like, well, you're at least making money. But it's a very risky situation because you can get replaced. You're not going to go very far. So I think there's a risk. It feels safe, but it's actually super risky. So in order for this loop to change, to stop like everything reinforcing everything, you have to take a leap. And that leap is going to feel unsafe. But that's the sign that you're getting out of the loop, because the loop feels safe. So here's the tricky part about creative freedom. Creative freedom has to do a lot with taking risks to find what's aligned for you. So people often talk about authenticity in their work, right? And if you are a creative, it's very easy to visualize what that looks like. I also believe that brands, I work a lot with brands, they are creatives in a way too. They are putting stuff out there. They are building their identities. They're also a creative. And I see a lot of brands, they have a really hard time with authenticity. It's harder for brands to achieve authenticity in the public size. But when it comes to like an individual, maybe a personal brand or like a creative, authenticity is not something you're going to find out there. Here's the tricky part. It's something you need to protect. So for me, I did go through the bad portfolio loop. I did go through like facing the markets and all of those challenges when it comes to like protecting my authenticity. But if I did not make the effort of protecting it anyway, I would not be where I am today. I would just not be. And it takes effort. It takes courage, because you don't know what you're going to find if you keep protecting your authenticity and you keep doing passion projects and you keep posting your content in an authentic way. You just basically ignore all that shit about like the I hate that word. Metrics. Authenticity is something you protect. And sometimes that can feel very triggering. You know, it's scary. I understand that. I feel that. I'm human. But if you do not do that, your success is not going to be easier. It's going to be harder. How can you actually build a personal brand if you have no identity? And how you can actually attract, you complain so much about the type of work that you attract. How do you think you're going to attract better work in that? You have to do it. You have to put it out there. You have to, oh, this does not exist. You create it. You protect your authenticity. You try your own ideas. And that becomes a habit for you. And that's the most important part for creative freedom. And creative freedom is the type of life that's going to bring you everything you basically want in a way. And I don't mean it like, when I say this, I don't mean like the Instagram version of what you want. I actually mean like aligned, purposeful work, purposeful connections, aligned connections, experiences. Oh, there's a car driving with like a Brazilian flag. By the way, I haven't explained why I'm using like a Brazilian outfit, but it was FIFA's World Cup. I love this atmosphere this time around, like of the year. I'm going to talk about now the paradox of creative freedom. So you see here, there's a paradox when it comes to creative freedom. The thing that people fear the most is often the thing that creates more value for them. People are afraid to be different, but differentiation is exactly what the market rewards. Honestly, people are afraid to trust their perspective, but perspective is what makes them memorable. People are afraid to stand out, but standing out is how opportunities find them. The same thing happens with brands. The strongest brands aren't the safest. They're the clearest. They know who they are. They have the courage to be different. The next point that I want to drive here is that creative freedom is a lifestyle choice for you as a person. It isn't a career path. It's a way of engaging with life that's going to be totally different. It's curiosity, it's experimentation, it's paying attention, it's the commitment of building a life that expands you and doesn't shrink you. Because your work down the creative freedom path is only one expression of what you're becoming. There's multiple. So that's a good thing. Creative freedom doesn't just touch one part of your life. It touches your entire life. That's why I believe it's so powerful. So we are reaching the end of this video, and I want to drive in some conclusions. Before I do that, I want to say this video, it's one part of a 4-part series about creative freedom. And I wanted to do this one explaining what it really means to be, and also driving the point home of why some people fear it so much, but it's essentially the thing, I really mean it, the thing that's going to make a difference in your life. So facing that fear is just that much important. So let's just start wrapping this up. The market rewards differentiation. Differentiation comes from perspective, and perspective can only emerge when you stop abandoning yourself. Hope that makes sense. So the question isn't whether you're different. The question is whether you've developed a perspective worth sharing. So you have to start also building your perspective. And that's so important, because even if you're thinking about posting content, the thing that's going to differentiate you, is your perspective. It's not the subject that you talk about necessarily. So perspective is coming up on the next video, and I'm going to go over how you can develop your own perspective. So it's going to be easier. That will be all for this video. I know I yapped so much, but thank you for sticking through the end. Honestly, I feel so grateful for you guys. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, I have a newsletter also where I share some thoughts and new discoveries. So it's my inner circle. Thank you guys so much. See you on the next ride. And remember, the possibilities are always, always, always endless.